Welcome to Skin and Soul. I'm Gwenm Carsley, a transformational body, sex, and soul coach, and I'm inviting you on a bold, unfiltered journey into the heart of our humanity through the lens of Eros. This is where we strip away the shame, dive into the unspoken, and embrace the wild, raw truth of our desires. Together, we'll crack open the taboo, uncover our deepest intimacies, and awaken the pulse of our sexual essence. Because real transformation, it's messy, it's thrilling, and it's oh so delicious. Buckle up, loves. Skin and Soul Beyond the Pale starts in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Hi, I'm Gwenm, and I'm the host of Skin and Soul on Transformation Talk Radio. I'm also the creator of eulogy. And today we have a different episode, just in place unexpectedly. And it's really an honoring to my father, the man as I saw him, through my perspective, our relationship, and my inner father and what remains. So he just passed away several days ago, so it's still pretty fresh and raw. And I wanted to share it with you because I think it's really important to show up not just in masks and questions and in interviews and with just planned scripts. So in this, where to start? I'm going to start with the phone call that I got because I knew when it came in that it wasn't a good one. I was out to lunch. And as soon as I got the phone call, I knew. My father was 89 years old, so it's not as though it was unexpected, but it was still unexpected because I think we all think that we have at least another day, another time, and I definitely thought we had a little bit more time. I was lucky. I got to speak to him on the Friday before his passing. So I feel good in that I got to connect with him one more time, but he lived very far away from me, from all of us. We're 5 children. And when I first got the call, I felt my body, disconnect. I felt an anger. I was with a friend. I just felt a need to escape. And I realized that my anger and just not being able to cope with anybody around me, that it's something that comes with the helplessness of losing someone in the flesh that you know from that moment on, you don't get to see them again. You don't get to see them in the same way. You don't get to connect with them. There isn't another opportunity. There isn't another chance to, whether it's to say your goodbyes or to have another laugh. And my father was a huge presence, a huge, grand being in anyone who knew him. Many loved him, some hated him, some feared him, and others revered him. But whoever knew him knew that he was not a small presence. And my own journey with my father was a very challenging one. I grew up with the father figure as an absence of a father figure. He was not in my childhood. And as a person, he was a shadow. As a child, he was a shadow monster. I didn't have a close connection with him, but I felt very much the ache to have a father in my life. And that ache and that heartache and heartbreak would follow me throughout my life. And I'm lucky to say that, when my father met my stepmom, a form of repair started to happen very slowly and over decades. And it was bumpy, and I often looked for love in many of all the wrong places, looking to fill that peace that only my father could fill. So we had a lot of those bumpy roads. And my father has done some amazing things in his life. He created his own empire. He was incredibly generous. He could also be incredibly lacking thereof. He could be kind and warm and loving, and he could also be very hard. He was a profoundly complex man, and our relationship was equally as complex. It took me a very long time to allow the love from my father in. It took me a long time to melt and to soften and to allow myself the vulnerability of being in his presence. I was probably, in his eyes, he would call me turkey, and I would know that he was either disappointed in me or angry with me in a way. We didn't see eye to eye on many things. He was definitely more conservative, and I was definitely the rebellious, more out there, the one that has always pushed edges in every way possible. And I pushed so much of him away from me for so long, until probably into my early mid-30s, when I started to soften and he started to soften. And I'm going to speak a little bit around two very intimate moments with my father, and they came much later in life. But one of them is when he had anaplastic thyroid cancer, and the rate of survival was very low. And I had the chance to spend a lot of time with him while he was going through his treatments, his chemo, his radiation. And in that time, I saw my father in a way I'd never had the chance to see him, which was very vulnerable, very tender, and holding my hand. And we had our own talks then, or just being together, I think felt very, loving and soft. And I started to feel into the person that I had always wanted for so long, that there was a moment of both of us seeing each other in a way that we never had a chance to see each other before. The second time was in my own transition in my marriage, and I rarely ever sought my father's advice on anything. But something in me opened to him, and he didn't agree with my marriage necessarily. I think he supported it in his way. But it wasn't his first choice of marriage. And when I went to him, I found again a man who did his best to open in his way, non-judgmentally, and gave me the advice, very open advice, that I needed to integrate for myself to make my own decisions. Those were two of the most poignant conversations I think that we've ever had. In losing him, even at 89, I am very well aware of the huge, immense gap that is going to follow. To me, grief has become a place of ghosts. And when I said earlier that, I grew up in the absence of a father, I have become very good at loving ghosts. But it's also very healing for me, because where he is, and I am a spiritual being, I believe in God, but even if you don't, just carrying that within your heart to be able to have conversations, both, the good or the bad or the coyote ugly, and to really have frank, open conversations, and to feel like you can be seen, or I feel like I can be seen. And I'll be honest, there's a part of me that is terrified that this one-way exchange again opens me to a vulnerability where my father can see me, and this time I truly can't see him at all. But I know when I sit quietly, I can feel his presence and his love. And I wanted to speak to his humanity today, because I think it's very easy to speak to someone's grand gestures and philanthropic biography, but it's not about that for me. For me, it's about the man who showed up, who wanted to do better and wanted to show up as a father and had huge devotion to his family. and not without his mistakes, because he had, like anyone, big ones, and some of those hurt very deeply and cut very deeply. Bear with me. I talk to the dead, as I say a lot, in the passing, originally many, many decades ago, to my grandmother when my son was born. She stayed with me. And then my wife and a dear friend that have passed, all within pretty much a year of each other. And my father. I wanted to speak in terms of the Father within. I worked for a really long time to cure that heartache, the heartbreak, the feeling that would never go away. And I created my own inner masculine. You know, I had spoken to my father in sessions, both, like I said, the good, bad, and the ugly, and also the great, the magnificence that I've taken from him. But I also created my own inner safety, my safe space of my masculine. And my safe inner masculine is very strong, very conscious, very spiritual, has a lot of depth. But I didn't realize up until these past few days how much I still had locked out of my father. That there was this sense of fear, if I opened truly, that this abandonment, this loss, would really grip into my heart. So I've been sitting with all of the beautiful qualities, and even some of the not so beautiful qualities that are my father's that are within me, including my stubbornness, my temper, but also my tenacity, my living on my own terms, learning how to heal and how to create repair in my own life, to learn forgiveness. I attribute some of my intelligence, I'd like to think, to my father, as well as my love of music and food and living well. My father was hugely devoted to family, even though he wasn't always great at it. But he took charge in a way to create a nest and a cocoon and a bubble that he felt he could take care of and make sure everyone was all right, even if it wasn't what everybody, maybe wanted to hear or experience. I know that from my own experience, that the father that I may have wanted was not the father that I received, but was in fact the father that I needed. My father had incredible strength, and the kind of strength that took him to 89 through many bouts of illness, cancer, heart attacks, and just having to get through every day when you are not well and you cannot get up anymore. He appreciated every day, which is the other gift I have within myself, this incredible love for life and my own devotion to family and love. My father lived a love story that I hope and ingest and, call for myself. I think what's so important for me in this whole story, which I'm probably skipping a whole lot of things that I wanted to say, planned to say, and I can't remember, is that the person, particularly in losing the father, is such a huge presence. And when we open ourselves, even in passing thresholds, I'm going to say especially in passing thresholds, to allow for an opening of intimacy. I actually think that death and grief is an opportunity to open the relationship in ways that maybe couldn't have even happened in life. That there's something around being seen. And as I've said before, I don't have regrets in life, but I really wish that we had seen more of each other. And I don't mean like just showing up for more visitations, but being seen. I wish I could have seen him, his essence, his being, his, his dreams, his heart more. And I wish and hope that he could have seen mine. I feel right now that he can, which is very scary to me. But I also know that he knows how much I love him. I have not said those words very often in my life because they have been so sacred to me that I didn't want them just out there vulnerably, even in telling them to my father. I wanted to hold it very close and dear to me. It is hard to live in the shadow of someone who did such grand and lived in such a grand, great way. And I think there is, in just even being here, there is a freedom in knowing that there's no need that we all have our own journeys and essences to bring light to the world. I also know it's not, and I haven't felt this for a long time, but the anger that I carried for the first, I'm going to say at least two decades, maybe even into the third decade, the anger that I had towards my father. I'm so grateful at the healing that occurred through just being allowed the time to be in each other's space. Had he not lived to 89, had he passed away with his first heart attack or first bouts of cancer, I would not be sitting here with the relationship today. I don't know. But there was something profoundly beautiful in being able to keep coming back into repair. Over time, he softened, perhaps in his own mortality and mine as well. And in each other's softening, something magical happened. And I think sometimes we forget, we build walls between people thinking that repair is impossible. But it's not. And I think it's essential for coming back home to oneself. I carry my father within me. And these are very, very early days. We think of grief as that moment of impact when we first hear the news. And the truth is, the grief goes on, and there's like everything out there around, the stages of grief and how you're supposed to move through it or how we move through it organically. And the truth is, yes, in a week or 6 months, everyone's going to be sleeping with their lover or laughing at a comedy or doing other things and having moments of just forgetting. But I don't think we do forget. To me, the hollowness is what lingers. That is the grieving, the gaping hole that's left by those that leave us. And it doesn't matter whether it's in death or whether it's separation. But it is in coming home into the heart, into that hole, and whether it's through conversation or, just creating a garden there. And it's not about saying it perfectly. In fact, I don't think any of it should be said perfectly or experienced perfectly. Grief lasts. I know this hole is going to go with me for the rest of my life. I also know that I'm going to keep him beside me the rest of my life, and I will always continue to talk to him. think this is where I'm going to leave it today. It's a very short space. My father, I wanted to add, was he passed away on Shavuot. I don't know if I said that at the beginning, which is a very huge holy holiday in the Jewish tradition. And his name was Moshe, which to me is very fitting for the grand human life that he experienced. I know that he has touched everybody in some way in his life, and extended beyond ways that I know and even he will know. I'm going to leave you with this, just to know that to take care of your own father figures, whether they're here or not here anymore, and to those that have passed, and to know that you can speak to them anytime, and to create an intimacy far beyond what this life has. All right. So this is where I leave you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to Skin and Soul with me, Gwenm. Join me Fridays at 10 a.m. PST on Transformation Talk Radio. Catch the podcast anytime on your favorite platforms. You can follow me on Instagram @eulogy. Ready to take the next step? Book a compatibility call with me at gwenmcarsley.com.